Hey guys, so it is snowing. Yeah, check it out. So anyway, I was not intending on doing a snow camping video because I didn't really want to camp in the snow, but we're here and it is snowing. So I'll do a snow camping video, I guess. There we go.
Please be careful.
This is our camper. We have a Alliance Paradigm 365 RD. It's a fifth wheel unit, about 40 feet long. This probably applies to most of the fifth wheels, I guess, that are out there. The first thing is, like, if you know you're going to be in snow, try to talk to the campground if you can. If you have the choice, you may not have the choice of putting you in a big site. This site right here is 65 feet long. The site behind me is 40 feet long. So you don't want to have your truck like out in the middle of the road if it's snowing, because you don't want somebody to run into you or whatever. So anyway, that's always big sites are always kind of cool. We parked ours so it is like 10 feet from the front here, so there's plenty of room in the front, and then there's way a ton of room in the back. So there's like 10 feet probably between our truck and the road on the other side. We have this humongous site. And as you can see, we are basically, we have neighbors on both sides of us, like that's obvious. But once you get past that, the entire campground is almost entirely empty. And we're near the exit too, so, it's easy to get out too. That's another thing I guess to ask for. But if you're in a nearly empty campground like us, try to be selective with your site. That would probably be the first thing I would say to think about. And obviously, the campground just goes on and on and on. It's just like all snow. The next thing you want to think about is it being cold. It is not terribly cold here. This is Charlotte, North Carolina that we're in. It is maybe 30 degrees. Maybe it gets down to 28 degrees at night or something. It's not like Antarctica or anything like that. But you do have to worry about things freezing and whatnot. The first thing that you always see in the store, which is the first thing you always probably buy for snow camping, is this blue Camco. That's a brand that we have, but I think there's not that many brands that make these. I could be wrong. Heated hose, and when you install the heated hose, depending on how you have the hose set up, probably the most important thing, other than plugging it in, probably the most important thing, if you don't realize, is one end has this white thing sticking out on it. The other end does not. That little white thing is a thermostat. It goes on the outside. Don't put it in your basement. Like that's not a good idea, because obviously if you have a heated basement like we do, then the hose never really turns on. You want it on the outside, so then the hose knows how cold it is outside, so it knows when or not to heat the hose. So that's the first thing that you probably need to worry about. Make sure you have enough propane if you're using the furnace. That's pretty important too. If you want to conserve propane, get a couple space heaters. That's what we do. So we have an electric fireplace in ours, but we also have a space heater that we move around. So when we're sleeping, we have it in the bedroom. When we're not sleeping, let's say that, we'll put it in the middle area near the kitchen and everything. So then, those two areas are mostly electric. Occasionally the furnace will kick on to kind of heat the bathroom or whatever, just occasionally. We set the furnace to a lower temperature than the space heaters. So if you want to be toasty, set the space heaters to like 70, set the furnace to like 65, and so on. But you want the furnace to be below the space heaters, so then the space heaters do most of the work, and the furnaces, the propane part isn't hardly kicking on, so you're saving propane. So anyway, that's what we do. We have a generator on board. That's the other reason why we're saving our propane. If a tree falls or something and they lose power here, we know that we have propane, so we can run the generator. So that's pretty important. If you were in really extreme, like cold temperature, if you have a diesel truck like us, or maybe even if you don't have a diesel truck, another thing to consider is plugging in the truck. And there's a plug here, and basically that's for the oil pan, so the oil pan doesn't freeze, but it's not anywhere near cold enough for that to happen. But the nice thing about plugging it in for us, even though it's not that cold, is it makes it so it's much easier to start. Well, not easy, but quicker, because the diesel will do a preheat thing, and it could take like 45 seconds for it to preheat before it decides to start. If you have it plugged in, it seems like it's much quicker on the startups. So we plug it in anytime we think it's going to be kind of cold, and then we don't have to kind of deal with that, even though that's like a little extra thing to do. The other thing that we do, and our neighbors do it too, and I don't know if this is a real good recommendation or not, I think it's a good one. We have a space heater in our basement near the water compartment. So like all of our tanks have tank heaters on them, but we have a space heater down there too that's set on minimum, so it's like 65 degrees. And what that does is it keeps the basement area 65 degrees, so even if the propane furnace isn't, you know, kicking on much and isn't doing much to heat that lower basement, because the way that the alliances are set up, it heats the main rooms and then it circulates back into the basement, so the basement gets like kind of like the air blowing into it from the room temperature air. It doesn't get like the furnace air blown into it directly. So anyway, since we're not really using the furnace much, we decided to put a space heater down there, and it has all those safety features on it. But what we did is we actually ran the space heater in the basement and the truck to the pedestal, you know, the power pole on the outside versus the camper. That way we wouldn't have to worry about like blowing any circuits from like having like too much stuff plugged in, you know, like if you have a space heater and turn the toaster on and the microwave at the same time or whatever. We don't want to have to worry about that. So we have that one space heater in the truck plugged in outside. So think about where you're plugging stuff in, especially when you start doing space heaters. And if it starts to pop, like the circuit, and you have to go and like switch it a lot, find a different circuit to plug it into, like a different plug. And you'd be amazed the way that they run the wiring. It may not be the exact way you think that it should be wired. Like people in their head, like the house we had, people in their head think that like each room should have like its own circuit, because that's like what they kind of think in their head. You know, this switch should be the bedroom, this switch should be the living room, this switch should be the kitchen or something like that. That's not the way that a lot of the houses are wired, especially the one we used to have. Some of them are wired that way, but that's not the way that all of them are. The way that ours was wired is like one plug in each room was on a circuit. And the general idea was like, you know, if you're sitting like in your office and you have everything plugged into all the walls and you're sitting and you have everything turned on, you're doing it all, well, if it's all plugged into one circuit, it's going to pop the circuit, right? But if each plug is plugged into a different circuit, and that's the room you're in, then, you know, you're not going to pop any circuits. And the general idea is like, you know, when you get done doing whatever you're going to do in one room, you're going to go into another room. So you're not going to have like the hairdryer like on like in the bathroom while you have like the toaster on like in the kitchen, hopefully, while you're, you know, doing something else in another room. That's why a lot of places wire it that way. So don't immediately think that like each room is on its own circuit. Just find a different plug and try it out. And the other thing to be aware of is the GFCI in the bathroom usually controls a lot of the plugs, because the way the GFCIs work is you put it as a first plug in the circuit and then it protects everything behind it, right? So the kitchen, a lot of times, since it's near water, will be plugged into the bathroom. So if the kitchen isn't working because you had a space heater plugged in or something and you popped it, and it's not the little, you know, circuit breaker thing, go check the GFCI in the bathroom. That's usually like what it is. And once you figure out the right combination of things to plug things into, everything will be fine. You won't be finding that you're popping stuff. We did not do any salt this time because we don't think that we're going to be in a whole lot of snow, so we didn't buy any. I honestly think it's going to rain this afternoon, and maybe by tomorrow all this will be gone. But I did kind of think this would be a cool little thing to provide some tips and tricks on. And then the other thing is we have footage of the snowfall that we'll put up, and Grace too playing in the snow. So enjoy the video, and hopefully this helps you guys out, and we will see you guys on the road.